As part of the pre-game bombardment phase, we have these two artillery units bombarding this Republican unit in the woods. And the result is that the Republican unit suffers a step loss and is disorganized. Now we're going to solve the barrage attacks by the artillery units here. There's 4 Italian artillery units, and here we've spread them out. These 2 ones for 30 factors are going to bomb Mirabueno, and these other 2 are going to bomb the communist unit here in this road junction. The barrage against the unit in Mirabueno results in the target unit being disorganized. Now we go to the attack against the communist unit, and it results in the unit suffering a step loss and being disorganized. And that is the end of the pre-game bombardment. Okay, now we go to the movement phase for the Nationalist turn 1, and we start with the movement phase of the Black Flames. These 3 Italian battalions will attempt to overrun this communist unit. The communist unit was eliminated, and the Italians occupy the space. And here are the positions after the movement phase, and we see that the Black Flames are mostly strung along the main road to Guadalajara, with 3 battalions of infantry and an armored company in the lead. Now we go to the movement phase in the Tajuña River sector. The 3 Italian battalions will attempt to overrun the previously disorganized unit. The unit is eliminated, and the Italians occupy the space vacated by the unit. Now we check the movement of the Spanish units of the Soria division. These are the units of Sotelo's group before movement. There is no overrun, and Sotelos' force surrounds the Republicans defending Castellón de Henares. Now we'll see the movement of Villalba's group and the group of Pita de Vega, reinforced with a Carles battalion and a tank company in the vicinity of Jadraque, which is worth 5 victory points. Here are the positions after movement. There are no overruns, but there will be an attack on the topmost infantry battalion during the upcoming combat phase. Here we have the units of Ibáñez's group before the movement phase, and the positions at the end of the movement phase. The movement phase is concluded. Now we go to the barrage phase, and now we have the same 2 artillery units bombarding now, this time, this Republican unit in the woods. This artillery is spotted because there are adjacent Italian units, and the result is that the defenders are disorganized. Now we have a barrage attack by various Italian units here against this unit in Mirabueno, but this attack is unspotted. The result is that the unit was disorganized, so it remains so. Continuing the barrage phase, these 2 Nationalist artillery units are going to fire on the Republican unit here near Jadraque. And the result is no effect. Move now to the combat phase. This is a 2-to-1 attack here. The result is no effect. Moving on to Sotelo's group, it is in odds a 10-to-1 attack, but the rightmost column is 4-to-1, modified 1 shift to the left because of the forest 3-to-1 attack. The result is a D1. The unit is flipped to its reduced side, and it must retreat 1 hex, and because it must retreat through a zone of control, it is eliminated. And Sotelos' group occupy the vacant space, and there's nothing before them in Castellón de Henares. The next attack, we have elements from Villalba's group and Pita de Vega and this armored company attacking here. It's a 4-to-1 attack with a +2 for the armored company. The roll was a 2 modified to a 4, no effect. We check, and all Nationalist units now are in supply. Now we go to the exploitation phase of turn 1, and there's a special rule that all Italian units can move to their full extent in this exploitation phase, regardless of whether they are exploitation capable. We have forward elements moving here near Ontanares on this track that leads all the way to Brihuega, and this other group will attempt to overrun this artillery unit. The artillery unit retreats 2 hexes, and the attackers can only seize the formerly vacated hex. Also, in addition to the failed attack, the tank company is disabled. It is removed from the map and placed in the disabled tanks box. Now we continue with the exploitation phase. And now we have these units attempting an overrun against the garrison of Almadrones. The result was a step loss, but the garrison holds on and does not retreat. During the course of exploitation movement, the 2 infantry battalions transported here by trucks are able to reach here in the vicinity of Yela and on this track on their way to Brihuega. And these are the positions of the Black Flames after exploitation movement. Here we have before exploitation movement in the sector near the Tajuña River. And here are the positions after exploitation. And that's the end of turn number 1 for the Nationalists. We see that near the Tajuña River there's some combat, and that the Italians have advanced along the Guadalajara road and have broken through on the road to Brihuega, which is actually a track, and there's nothing between them and Brihuega at this time. In the Soria Division's sector, Castejón de Henares is practically defenseless. The troops of Sotelo should capture it in the next turn, and Jadraque is still holding out with 2 Republican units which are partially surrounded. Meanwhile, Ibáñez's forces have started to cross a small river here and are threatening Cogolludo, which is worth 5 victory points. We saw during the Nationalist turn that they eliminated 3 infantry units. Infantry units can return to the game through a process known as unit reconstitution. A die is rolled for each infantry unit, and that is the number of turns that they are placed ahead in the turn record track. The exception is if they rolled an unmodified 1, in which case the unit would be permanently destroyed. So now we roll a die for each eliminated unit. The communist unit rolled a 4. Communist units as well as anarchist units receive a -1 modification, so it will return 3 turns from now. The second unit will return 6 turns from now, and the third unit is eliminated. We place the communist unit on the box for turn number 4, and the 356 is inverted and returns during turn 7. We check for reinforcements for the Republicans, and they receive 4 units. We see here the reinforcements, and among them there is an anarchist infantry unit. They are scheduled to enter in any of these spaces marked B, so we will place them here so that they have a decent chance of reaching Brihuega sometime during next turn. It's important to note that because of a special surprise rule, all Republican units have their movement factors halved during turn number 1. So here we have the positions of their reinforcements and the units in Torija before the movement phase. And here are the positions after the movement phase. Here are the Republican units near the Tajuña River before movement and after movement. The Republican units near Jadraque before movement and after movement. And here are the Republican positions in the neighborhood of Cogolludo before the movement phase and after the movement phase. Republican units are now checked for supply, and we have the garrison at Mirabueno, which is unsupplied, as well as the Republican forces in Almadrones. There is no exploitation movement for the Republicans in turn 1. Now we go to the cleanup phase, and we remove the disorganization markers from the Republican units. We do the same for the Mirabueno garrison, but it still remains unsupplied. This is the situation at the end of turn number 1. The Italians are advancing unimpededly along the Guadalajara road, no serious opposition, and are within 1 move of reaching Brihuega. Meanwhile, Republican forces will not be able to occupy Brihuega in the next turn. However, they may be able to reach the outskirts, including the mountains, and we expect fighting for the mountainous terrain in the vicinity of Brihuega to be occurring around 2 turns from now. In the Soria Division sector, Castejón de Henares should fall during the next turn, as well as Jadraque, and that should produce 7 victory points for the Nationalists. Now we go to turn number 2. In turn 2, the Italians receive the Black Arrows division. This is a black shirt division. It has a substantial number of truck units, so it is practically fully motorized. Here we see the Black Flames division, and they're about to move. We'll show here the movement of the 2 leading battalions, which are transported on trucks. And the trucks transport the battalions to Brihuega. One occupies Brihuega, and one the space immediately here, which would be to the west of Brihuega. By capturing Brihuega, now the Nationalists have 5 victory points. Okay, a word about the trucks that transported these units here to the neighborhood of Brihuega. Since they unloaded their cargo in this turn, they are not available until the next movement phase to be placed on other units. So they remain there for now. Let's focus our attention now on the other elements of the Black Flames division, which are along the Guadalajara road, and their only opposition is this artillery unit. These 3 battalions will attempt to overrun this artillery unit, which defends with a defense of 1 and has no zone of control. The battalions move adjacent, and the result of the overrun is that the defender loses a step and must retreat, but the artillery unit is a 1-step unit, so it is eliminated. And the Italian units occupy its hex. Okay, we now move the remaining units of the Black Flames. Here we have the positions of the Black Flames after movement. The headquarters has been placed in this location to provide supply to these units. The units that occupied Brihuega will be unsupplied, but that's a necessary gamble the Italians are taking just to seize Brihuega beforehand. And these artillery units with this engineer unit will execute a spotted barrage attack against the garrison of Almadrones, which is unsupplied. Now we will see the Black Arrows entering the road here in this direction and moving rapidly towards the south. As we see here, the Black Arrows are a fully motorized unit. However, their infantry battalions are weaker than those for the Black Flames. They have 4 on attack compared to 5 for the Black Flames, and 7 on defense compared to 8. Here we have the Black Arrows about to enter the game. And here we have the Black Arrows after movement, and they are practically strung here along the Guadalajara road in front of Mirabueno. Now let's take a look at the positions of the Spanish Nationalist forces of the Soria Division. This is Sotelo's group before movement, and we will see also before movement here Villalba's group with Pita de Vega's cavalry force and that tank company. Sotelos' group captured Castejón de Henares and is about also to capture here Arguesilla, which is on the west side of the Badiel River. Capture of Castejón gives the Nationalists 2 more victory points. Here we have the positions after movement of Villalba's group and Pita de Vegas' cavalry group with the tank company, and they will be attacking these 2 units, and before there will be a barrage by their artillery units. And this is the situation of Ibáñez's group before movement. And here we have the positions after movement, and they are about to attack the Republican units in the next turn, specifically that 586 unit here. And finally, let's take a look at the movements near the Tajuña River sector. And these are the positions after movement, and they have possibilities of barraging this unit here with the artillery and then attacking in the combat phase with 5 infantry battalions. Okay, we start with the barrage phase, and we will start here in the Tajuña River sector. Okay, we have the 2 11-factor artillery units attacking here, this Republican unit in woods. And the unit is disorganized with the effect that in the ensuing combat phase, its defense strength will be halved. Now we have a barrage attack against the unsupplied Republican unit in Almadrones. Roll was a 5, no effect. Okay, before executing this barrage attack, I forgot actually to move the artillery unit, so we will move them 2 hexes each. And now, both artillery units will fire at the Republican units here in Jadraque. And the roll of 6 produces no effect. Okay, here the Italians actually have 4 units. The unit under this one is an artillery unit. So it's 20 factors divided by 3, but the unit is in force, so it is doubled back to 6. So this is a 3-to-1 attack. And the result is a 5, no effect. These 2 stacks will attack this unit, which is doubled because it is in a village. In this stack, there are 4 cavalry units with 1 combat factor plus the tank company. So it's going to be 3-to-1 plus 2 for the tank company. The result is that the defender loses 2 steps and retreats 2 hexes. The defending unit is eliminated because it is a 2-step unit. The Nationalists capture Jadraque, and these 2 infantry units can advance an additional space because they're exploitation capable, as well as the armored unit. Okay, a word about the armor unit. Every time it participates in a combat where no enemy armor units are present, it has to roll a die on the tank after combat table, and we've been doing so, and in this case no adverse effect happened on that armored unit. With the capture of Jadraque, the victory point score goes up to 12. That is the end of the combat phase. We go to the Nationalist supply phase, and as we stated before, both units in the vicinity of Brihuega are unsupplied, and we so mark them. There is no exploitation phase for the Nationalists in this turn, so that ends their turn number 2. We go now to turn number 2 for the Republican side, and they have reinforcements. The reinforcements include 3 battalions of the International Brigades, artillery from the International Brigades, as well as other artillery. We have regular infantry, 3 truck units, and a T-26 tank company. 1 reinforcement battalion will enter here in Zone A, another one here in this B space, and the majority of the reinforcements will come through this road, through Torija, and will be going towards the Brihuega sector. These are the position of the Republican forces before movement. Here we have the Italian units in Brihuega unsupplied, and the leading Italian units along the road to Guadalajara. Here we have the positions after movement, and we'll zoom in. There's considerable forces of the International Brigades and artillery in the vicinity here of the mountains of Brihuega. Okay, here we have the Comune de Paris International Brigade Battalion with the Thalman Battalion also with the International Brigades. We have the 2 artillery units, and we have here the Edgar André Battalion also of the International Brigades arriving in the mountains overlooking Brihuega. In addition, there are 2 more Republican battalions on their way, and if we take a look at the situation along the main road, there's 1 sacrificial company here, hopefully to stop the Italians, and here are the T-26s with another infantry battalion and 2 more battalions on their way. Looking at the situation around Abanades before Republican movement, and after movement, and the disorganized battalion has crossed the Tajuña River. In this sector here, Cogollor and Las Inviernas, the scant Republican units that started the game there have maintained their positions there. There's quite a significant number of victory points in that region for the Italians, but they'll have to come and get them. And here's the situation near Jadraque with the surviving Republican battalion, and it practically moves 2 hexes back towards Villanueva de Argesilla. And this is the situation near Cogolludo, and the situation after movement. And here we see the reinforcement unit, which started in Hex A, approaching the area. We're going out to the Republican supply phase, and both of these units will roll on the attrition table because they have been 1 full turn out of supply. A 5 or a 6 means that the unit loses a step. The unit in Almadrones is unaffected, but the unit in Mirabueno does lose a step. So we flip the unit to its reduced side and it keeps the unsupplied marker for now. There's no exploitation phase for the Republicans. We go to the cleanup phase and we remove the disorganization marker from the unit near the Tajuña River. And that's the end of turn 2, and the situation is that the Italians are advancing in full force towards the south with the 1st Division that came in the game, which is the Black Flames. The Black Flames Division is divided among units heading for Brihuega or there, and units along the road here near Gajanejos that will come in contact in the next turn with the lead Republican units on the main road to Guadalajara. In addition, the Black Arrows have entered the game, and it is important to note that in turn 3, the Italians will receive the Diolovole Division. In the Spanish Soria sectors, we see here that Sotelo has captured Castejón de Henares, will probably capture in the next turn Argesilla, and keep moving along the west bank of the Badiel River and capture more villages in the vicinity of Utande. Meanwhile, Villalba and Pita de Vegas' group will advance in this direction towards Miral Rio. And we will expect the Nationalist forces to be able to cross this river in the next turn and probably attack some of the forces in the vicinity of Cogolludo. The situation is interesting. Brihuega has been captured by the Italians. That allows the Italians now to move south and go after the prize city of Torija, 10 victory points. And that forces the Republicans to send significant forces to block that move along the Guadalajara road. However, the Republicans have sent their best infantry in the form of the International Brigades and considerable artillery that would be able to probably attack the out-of-supply Italians during the next turn. However, the Italians are not alone. There is a unit of infantry and an armored company on its way along this track, but not much else that may arrive during the next turn. So now we go to turn 3.